It's almost too late now.
All right. Hey, Blasphemers, hang tight. Matthew is our special guest, and we're about to start right now. Hey, Blasphemers, welcome to Simple Blasphemy, where we have the best times with the worst topics.
We're three friends that discuss everything and nothing, from wacky headlines to games and trivia. All subjects bizarre and risque are on the table.
Our weekly guests range from friends, musicians, and artists to professionals in a variety of industries.
We go live on Facebook and YouTube every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Want to support the show? Join our Patreon. You can find it and more at www.simpleblasphemy.com.
So grab a drink and join in!
It's too late now. This is Simple Blasphemy.
All right. Welcome to Simple Blasphemy, all you blasphemers out there. My name is Zach Ward, and I have here with me always Andy.
How's everybody doing today?
And Mr. Zach, the Green Machine.
To all the commuters out there, just remember, whether you coming or going to work,
It's almost time to go back to work! It's almost time to go back to work! It's almost time to go back to work!
All right. And all the info about this show can be found at Simple Blasphemy. And if you click that like, share, subscribe button, you'll receive 5 years of good luck.
Ooh.
Yeah. As mentioned,
I'll be right
this week-
back.
I need it.
I know we're all going to be doing it. This week's guest is none other than Matthew Farrow. Farrow. God damn.
Farrow, yeah.
Julio.
I'm
Sorry.
Told you how to pronounce it.
It's pronounced Julio.
And to get to know Matthew even better, we are going to spit 4 questions at him, quick and easy, not literally. So here we go. First question number 1. If you had a superpower, what would it be?
That's tough. The two classic ones are flight and invisibility. Those are the ones that everybody goes for. I think probably something like the ability to talk to machines.
Good. Good one.
Yeah,
Good one.
Something like that.
I could have fixed my video games so much quicker.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Beep, beep, boop, beep, beep, beep.
And it just for the reason is just to make things flow better. Is that basically what it is? I would suppose.
We live in a world of technology. The people that control the technology control the world.
Oh God, yes. Okay, done.
All right.
And by the way, I didn't wear that shirt today because I have that shirt for the reason because I'm recording a Reverend video tomorrow, and I'm wearing it tomorrow for the Reverend video. So
Awesome.
I love the sound. That's for that's for your pedal, right?
Yeah.
one of them.
Oh my God. Yeah, I listened to a bunch of the demos earlier. That's awesome.
We're gonna get into that in a second, but here we go. Matthew, what age do you consider old?
I would say the age I am now feels pretty old.
27.
I'm Richard Petty years old, if that means anything to anybody.
43.
That's the number. I would say to me now, being born before
The 1900s.
No, I mean, I think when you're old enough to get your senior coffee at McDonald's, I'd say that you're at the point when you can use your age
To your advantage.
your advanced age to your benefit, then you're old. So
And
when you're eligible for Medicare, senior coffee, senior discounts, when you reach that point, society now considers you old. So that
elder.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And Brian from Bees Music says, "Hey, I sell that guy's stuff." So there you go.
Yes, he does, and he does a great job. What's up, Brian?
B,
One of my favorite music stores.
yeah, B's music. Brian's been on the show
Yeah.
a good handful of times.
Cool.
Question number 3. I'm going to rephrase this. What is like the holy grail of pedals for you? Like what's and for whatever reason, it could be the first one that really inspired
Boss
you.
Metal Zone.
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't like the Metal Zone. The EQ section's too finicky.
Oh God, yeah.
I mean, the first pedal I ever bought with my own. Well, the first pedal I ever bought with my own money was an HM2. So I love that pedal. My favorite Boss pedal is the PS3, which is the pitch shifter delay.
Yeah.
Is
that
Mode
purple?
7.
Right.
It's blue. Yeah.
Blue.
Yeah. Mode 7 on the PS2 is like my favorite Boss pedal sound. I mean, the classic thing, the thing that I'm probably known for is the Peptronics Super Randomatic. I love those. I'm a huge fan of those. I've used them since the 90s, and we now make a work-alike version of it because the originals are all kind of garbage. They were made okay for their time, but they're not roadworthy. So we make a Super Neomatic that does kind of all the same sounds. So now I can have the pedal that I like the best with MIDI and presets and all that. So I mean, Holy Grail, Ludwig Phase 2, but they're so ridiculous and over the top. If anyone knows that, there's Sonic Youth has used it, and it's just this giant like suitcase that unpacks with a bunch of weird, synthesizer stuff in it. It's terrible. They're Mutron.
It's an abomination.
I mean, there's a lot of really cool vintage pedals that are expensive. Some of them for good reasons, and some of them not. Like I've never been into vintage fuzzes because there's not much in them, and
They sound like shit.
some of them sound really cool, but not when I play them. But some of them sound.
Yeah, I know. I guess you have to have the talent for it and be able to play.
Yeah,
for
that.
The fuzz pedals, that was just always made me sound. I mean, I'm not a good guitar player, but when I plug into those things, it's just like, oh my god, it exemplifies the shittiness of my fucking playing.
I prefer pedals that make me sound better than I actually am, not the pedals that make me sound exactly as good as I actually am.
I think that goes for all instruments and all peripherals of instruments. Is if
Probably,
you play
yeah.
something that makes you feel like you're going to be a
Yeah,
better
exactly.
player.
You have to find the pedal that.
I've never found a something better than this, and that's
Here's what Brian has to say. Vintage fuzz pedals are like boats. The best day you own them. The best day is when you own them and when you sell them. That's yeah. I had one of those old Russian Sobtek, like the big
muff.
green muff.
Yeah.
With the big silver.
Did the
It was
switch
sweet.
and the jacks break?
Yes,
The big.
yes,
not
and the
green.
old tank box one with the really crappy switch on the top.
Those are those are like 90s ones. I had a bunch of those. Like in the 90s, you couldn't give those things away. No one wanted them. They were garbage.
And it's too big.
Oh, they're still garbage.
Yeah, well, but now they're more desirable. Now people are like, oh, I really want a Civil War muff, or I really want a Bubble Font muff, or I really want and for the people that are big muff people, awesome, great, more power to you.
And it's really bizarre.
I'm a V4 op amp muff guy. If I have to play a big muff, I want the op amp muff that's super consistent. The Smashing Pumpkins muff, that's the one that works for me. JCM 800, like the low gain side with the op amp muff and a Strat, that's kind of my comfort zone.
Do you think that in this day and age, the muff isn't very popular because so many people manscape? And
I was about to just make a comment about how many times we can fit
question.
the word muff. I think we've beat the Volva record by saying muff 472 times.
I started playing guitar because my uncle played guitar, and my uncle had all those original pedals. And I remember plugging in. He after he kind of walked away from it for a while, he gave me his fucking collection of pedals and stuff like that. I was playing through the original, the fucking big muff pedal, and I was just like, oh my god, this is making me sound worse than I really am. But I mean, because that's why I just didn't know how to fucking use it. I don't know, but it's just like
you didn't smoke enough grass, man.
I don't think it's a question of knowing how to use it. A big muff has 3 knobs.
Yeah.
One makes you louder, one gives you more gain, and one changes the tone. And no matter where
I
you
didn't
turn
like
those
it.
knobs, no matter where you turn those knobs, it's never going to do anything for your sound other than make it louder and more distorted.
Right.
So
But
you still have to be able to play well enough.
Right, exactly.
To sound good with it.
Exactly, because I've heard players fucking play through that exact same fucking pedal, and I was like,
absolutely.
holy shit! I thought that was in the pedal.
Yeah.
Well, to be honest, we have to get to the last question, but before I'll say that.
I didn't even know we were still in that bit.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry.
But for me, I'm more of a rhythm player, so the muff was great. I mean, doing the bar chords or the octave chords like the Pumpkins did, that muff was.
Can I say something?
I was down in
before
it.
we move on.
Yeah.
Muff.
All right, muff. All right, last question. What is the worst job you've ever had?
Ooh. I've been really fortunate. Most of the jobs I've had some kind of redeeming qualities. But I'll say that the worst experience I ever had on a job, not the worst job, but the worst experience I ever had was being 200 feet in the air on a smokestack in Jamestown, New York, when it was 22 degrees outside.
Oh.
So, for a whole day, like an 8-hour shift of being on the catwalk around the smokestack.
Were you raising money?
No, I was there for in the industry they're called ratas, but they're ratification. So basically, you have a piece of test equipment that goes in the smokestack to monitor whatever the emissions are, and you have to make sure that what it says is coming out is what's actually coming out. So you have an independent third party there to say, okay, we're going to measure this, and you measure it, and the two numbers have to jive. And if
something tells
they're
me.
Yeah, he was meant to be up there, not like some of these YouTubers.
Oh yeah, no, I was getting paid.
Yeah,
I wasn't dropping stuff off it or anything. I was just working.
Something tells me that Smokestack Oversight wouldn't make as good of a song title.
All right,
not.
So let's move forward here.
We have a cool job, man.
We have a lot of ground to cover.
Like that.
We have a lot of ground to cover here tonight. Yeah. So we're going to dive into the Alexander Pedal story here in just a second, but we like to give a shout out to the top 5 of our audio listeners, audio only, that we get from our Spreaker program. And coming in once again, climbing up higher, number 1 country, India, at
climbing up higher.
79.3% of all.
In India, I just want to let you know that Alanis Morissette wanted me to let you know that she personally thanks you. Thank you, India.
All right.
Thank you.
Number 2, the United States. Number 3, Germany. Number 4, United Kingdom. And number 5, Canada. And with that, every week, here comes Tanner Wirtz with his weekly shout out.
This is Tanner.
What's up, guys? Tanner Wirtz here. I want to give a big shout out to girls who have musician boyfriends because, yes, they'd rather play guitar than hang with your parents.
All right.
Solid?
No argument here.
He's going to make a good father someday.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. Name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen.
All right. So we've got all the formalities out of the way, and we are now going to dive into a very, very intriguing and special story that you don't typically have with manufacturers, at least in my opinion. The first time that I talked to Matthew, maybe not the first time, but at least when we really dove into the backstory of his company, you damn near brought me to tears. You had me in tears. So let's start off with Alexander Pedals. How did it start? What year? And how did you move from the amp company? Is it Farrow Amps? Is that where I got that?
Yeah.
Up?
So let me just start at the beginning. The first company I had was Farrow Amps, and we made pedals because I thought, man, it'd be a great idea to make amplifiers. And then I realized it's hard to sell a handmade amplifier to somebody. It's a lot to ask somebody to lay down, even in the 90s, like, $800-900 for an amplifier is a lot of money to ask somebody to like, hold my money. But pedals are easy because, there was a guitar store here that dealt ZVEX and Full Tone and Prescription and a bunch of, at the time, they were the sort of the top boutique brands, the only boutique brands. And
Absolutely.
Fat Sound Guitars in Cary, RIP, it was a great store.
Mesa Boogie is probably in there too. They were one of the
Definitely. Matchless and Soldano actually were their big amp lines.
Yeah. Okay.
The first Matchless I ever saw was there, and it was one of the demo models with the plexiglass top, and you could see inside and all the light bulbs. It was so cool. For a 19-year-old kid, this is like the coolest thing ever. And so I made pedals, and we actually did pretty well. I quit my day job, and I was able to do that full time for about a year. And I got to the point where you could either hire someone to help me, or I could stop taking orders. And I chickened out and stopped taking orders. I got so busy I couldn't fill orders, and there's a point, there's that tipping point, that knife edge point where you can't grow anymore with what you've got. So I said, you know what, I can't do it anymore. I can't sustain this. So I got a job and, put it away for a little while. And then a few years later, I was playing in a band, and if anyone knows the opening track on Master of Puppets, it's Battery. There's a 3-guitar harmony, as well as like a rhythm guitar part. And I was like, oh, I could, if I had a looper, I could play that whole thing by myself. And I was like, well, I have an M9, it has a looper. And so I'm sitting there with the M9. The problem comes in the second and third harmony parts need notes that you can't play on a 4-string bass in standard tuning. So I was like, oh, well, I'll hit the pitch shifter. So I had this really elaborate plan, and every time I tried to do it, I would just fall over because I'm just not coordinated. So I thought, well, if I could control the looper without having to go in and out and go to the sort of the pedal mode and turn the pitch shifter on, that'd be great. So I looked up the MIDI commands. I'm like, how hard can this be? So I built a little box. It was 6 buttons, 6 buttons, and they just did the same functions as the M9's buttons in looper mode. MIDI'd it all together. MIDI's 2 resistors and 2 wires. It's not complicated, not on the transmit side anyway. And I made it work, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And I would drag it around the shows, and while the stupid guitar player was tuning his stupid guitar, I would play this like Battery thing by myself. And it was like, people were like, how are you doing that? I'm like, oh, I have this thing. And somebody, some other bass player came up and was like, oh, you should put that on YouTube. People would love that. And I'm like, okay, you're stupid. So I put it up on YouTube, and I didn't think anything of it. I didn't really care. And then I got an email from a guy who said, oh, I have this thing called a Strymon timeline. Can you control the looper in that? And I'm like, of course I can. I was very confident. I thought I could do it. And so I built a small version of the same controller, sent it to him, and it became part of his rig. And he actually was a YouTuber himself, like in a small way. He was, had a YouTube channel with maybe, 400 or 500 subscribers. In 2011, that was a pretty decent number. Like, with Google AdWords, you could make a couple $100 here and there on that.
Yeah, we're about 150.
What, 150 total or 150K?
Total.
Yeah, total. Yeah, that's like my YouTube channel. I've got like 2,000 subscribers on that, and it's like, no one cares. It's a very small number. And so I made this MIDI controller for him, and he did a video about it. And then all of a sudden, I had like 3 or 4 emails, people going, hey, can you make me a MIDI controller? And then it was like 3 or 4 emails a day. Yeah. And then it was like 40 emails a day.
Now, is this disaster then?
Yeah, this became disaster area. And
so for the viewer, the video viewer, there's a link on the screen that actually has more of what we're talking about here right now, which is disastereaamps.com. I'm sorry, I just want to put that out there before we.
Yeah, and so I started making MIDI controllers in my garage on the weekends, and after the first year of doing it full time, I went to talk to my accountant, and my accountant was like, do you realize how much money you've made doing this? She's like, you haven't paid taxes on any of it. Yeah. So yeah, so I said, you know what, it's time to shit or get off the pot here, and so I
my favorite term.
Yeah, right. And so I went and I rented a little space because when you like, I've talked about this on other podcasts before, but when you are self-employed, there is what I call the sweatpants factor. And now in 2020, all of America understands the sweatpants factor. But when I first started talking about this in the 2010s, I think it was a little less understood. But if you get up in the morning and you don't have a really good reason to put on your pants and your socks and your shoes, you might not. You might just wear sweatpants all day. And it's really hard. Like, it's really hard to accomplish anything. Like, you can't fight a man when you're just wearing sweatpants. But if you got your boots on, then you might have a chance. So my whole thing is I wanted to make sure that I had a reason to get up and go to work in the morning, even if it was just me. Even if it's just me and Marty, my dog. We were going to get up and get in the car and go to the shop and work. And then there's a side benefit to that is that when you leave, you left work and you're not at work anymore. And so that helps compartmentalize.
Yep.
Pretty soon, it's going to be time to go to work again.
Yep.
Like Zach said. But
it's almost time to go back to
right
work.
now, I get to go home.
Work.
Yeah.
Yep.
And for maybe the first 5 years, I worked 100 hours a week, something like that, like 50 at the shop, 50 or 60 at the shop. And then probably another 3 or 4 hours a night, every night working on things, designing things and answering emails and trying to accomplish things that I couldn't get done during the day because there's just not enough hours in the day. And so we hired people. And eventually there were 4 of us in this little 600 square foot, basically a garage with a bathroom and an office. And then I got a bigger place that was started off as 1,400 square feet, and then it was 2,600, and now we're in almost 5,000. So
and this is North Carolina, correct?
Yep. So we're in Raleigh, which is the second biggest metro in North Carolina. Charlotte, then Raleigh, then Greensboro. And then, so there's 9 of us in 4,600 square feet, 4,640. So we've got a warehouse in the back where we do the powder coating and the drilling. And then up front, we've got assembly and printing and office stuff. And, a giant room full of amplifiers, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Better than most guitar stores because, I don't have to sell any of it to make the rent. It's just a different paradigm. Nothing on guitar stores. They're all great. And I miss when guitar stores were more about community and less about a box to sell stuff in. And I think every guitar player who came of age pre sort of Mars Guitar Center would recognize that.
Came to our town.
I do agree with you, but the only thing I would insert that each one of those boxes is a dream as well.
Absolutely.
So, but that's more the person. That's the person making that happen, and not the actual store.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. So after we had done the disaster area thing, I've been doing disaster area for 4 years by now. I started full-time in 2012. I'd been doing it all through 2011. And in 2015, I decided that I wanted to, instead of just making, and it's important to understand that disaster area was just MIDI controllers and switching systems. So we made pedals that controlled, here's one. This is a DMC 4 Gen 3. So this is very, very dusty too. This is my, I usually make my demo units weird colors. Black is our most popular color, and I make my demo units weird colors so that people won't sell them. Because if we're short on something and there's a black one. The guys will steal it. They're like, oh, we need to fill that order, which I completely approve of. However, I need to have one so I can program them.
Yeah.
So this is one of my demo units here.
That's yours.
So they don't make any sounds. They just control other pedals. They turn other pedals on and off, or they send MIDI commands to them to ask them to do things. And that's great, but that's a very tiny subset of what the pedal market really is. Most people don't have MIDI controllers. A MIDI controller is a kind of an expensive luxury. And I thought, well, a really good way to expand our audience would be to design more traditional pedals. I was wrong. The way to expand our audience is design much less traditional pedals. But I started Alexander in 2015, and we had 4 pedals in the lineup. We had the Amnesia, the Equilibrium, the Radical Delay, and the Litho Boost. And of those 4 pedals, the Radical Delay did the best of all of them. It's also the weirdest. It's like a digital delay with like bit crushing and pitch shifting and modulation, and it was really kind of wild and fun sounding. And that's what caught people's imaginations, much more so than the sort of like the Equilibrium is a really cool vintage style tremolo, and it sounds amazing. But like, man, there's a million other vintage style tremolos out there. No one needs another one. But someone needs a pedal that sounds like you pushed a trash can down a flight of stairs. Like that's a need that's much less served. So
that was 2015 when that started launch. So let's put, like they say, a pin in this, and let's talk about your brother for a second.
Sure.
Because this is where you really captured me. I remember going to, there's a trade show that we do, and I walk up to your booth, and there's a nice plaque, more or less, a sign that kind of gave a little bit of a background on your brother Alex, aka Alexander, of course. So can you take us back to, before things happen, let's put it that way, in case people don't know the story. How old you guys were, is it typical, growing up in North Carolina? We're from Ohio. You guys probably did weird stuff, but whatever. Give us a little bit of a background.
We do different weird stuff than you guys, but everybody does weird stuff. We moved to North Carolina in 1982 from the eastern shore of Maryland. So we were from Salisbury. So that's out in Frank Purdue country. I
love their steaks.
It's that's the wrong Salisbury. You're thinking of Salisbury, England. So the Salisbury where I'm from is all about the chickens. It takes a tough man to raise a tender chicken. But we moved from. That's I didn't come up with that. That's Frank Purdue. You're not from there. It's okay. You wouldn't know. But we moved from Maryland to North Carolina in 82. My dad got a job in a town called Burlington, which if you were to cut the state of North Carolina out of a piece of cardboard and balance it on a pin, the pin would go through Burlington. It's the exact middle. It's where the barbecue changes from Eastern to Western style.
Wow.
It's where the barbecue changes. It's
Come
the
when
middle.
the barbecue changes.
That's right. And anyone in North Carolina that you tell that to, they're like, oh, that makes sense. Everyone else, like some places college football is important. In North Carolina, the barbecue is important. And basketball, college basketball. But we moved here.
Barbecue and basketball.
Yeah, pretty much. But we moved here in 82, and I was 5. Alex was 2, almost 3. 2, I guess. And everything was fine. We elementary school and, Catholic elementary school and all that stuff. And when we went back up to Maryland when my brother was 5, and he had been suffering from some constipation. So he was taking Metamucil, and, he was okay, but it was uncomfortable because he couldn't poop. And my Uncle Bob noticed that his abdomen was distended, He said, lie down here on the couch. And I remember Alex lying on the couch with his shirt up and my Uncle Bob palpating his abdomen and, saying to my mom, he said, Kathy, you should take him to the hospital. When you get home, it's probably nothing, but you should take him to the hospital and you should ask them to do a CAT scan. And so my mom was like, okay. And so it turned out that he had a tumor in his belly that was caused by a type of cancer called neuroblastoma. And neuroblastoma at this point, it's a very rare cancer. At that point, it was in 85. It was less rare, but the survivability for neuroblastoma at that time in the 80s, most kids who got neuroblastoma didn't make it much past their first birthday. It was a childhood disease, and out like a light.
So would you say it would get undetected in years past?
Yeah. And so he was a very rare case. He was a kid who had it probably most of his life, and the tumors weren't of noticeable size until he was 5. He passed away when he was 7. So I was 10. He was 7. And that's, there you go. That's his picture from first grade, Miss Riddle's class. My mom sewed that sweatshirt, actually. Yeah, I mean, it's we didn't have highly developed fashion senses in those days.
Is that terry cloth?
Have you seen anything I wear? Jesus.
I wish that I could have a terry cloth shirt. That would probably be pretty awesome.
There were matching pants with the same stripe down the leg.
Made of terry cloth?
Oh yeah, same.
Oh
same
God, that
material.
had to
The
wick
good
so
old
well.
days. The good old days.
I mean,
Matthew,
you wouldn't wear that in the summer here.
You don't want to. It's not a job, honey. I got to put my terry cloth outfit on. I'm going to go for a brisk run.
That's right.
Hey, you spilled something. Use your shirt and wipe it up.
Just use your shirt.
Dude, I remember those days of fucking relatives making clothes for you. My grandma was like the seamstress, man, and she made all her fucking clothes. It was fucking insane.
You ever see that episode of The Simpsons where Marge is in love with the paper towel guy? The burly paper towel guy?
Yeah.
It's the episode where she throws a bunch of paper towels in the pond at the quarry, and the water drains out, and they find Smithers' father, the bones of Smithers' father. My brother in that outfit thrown into that quarry would have done the same thing. It would just, would have been fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, he passes away in 87. And
well, hold on. Let me ask you one question before that. When you're 8 years old or so, or when you find out your brother has some kind of problem, right?
Yep.
What's going through your head being so young?
How do you deal with that?
It's hard to explain. I would say, I can't speak for anyone else. I don't have anyone else's experience. But for me, there were kind of equal parts of there are those stages of grief that you go through. Like, I wish it was me. This can't be happening. The bargaining, all that. You go through all those stages. At first, you think, oh, he's going to get better. And then as time goes by and he doesn't, it gets a lot harder. And then, after Alex was sick for a while, I got mad and annoyed with him because everything was about Alex. He was the kid who got all the attention.
Right.
And, in the mind of an 8-year-old, 9-year-old, you don't think that, well, he's getting attention because he's fucking dying.
Right.
And, we're just trying to make sure that his last days are happy ones. And you don't get that, So there's a perspective you have as an adult that you completely lack as a child. So how do you deal with it? I mean, just the way you deal with anything, one day at a time. I'm just really glad that it didn't mess me up so bad that I wasn't able to function, because there's a lot of people that would never come back out of that kind of a hole. There's a lot of people that wouldn't make it out. I think to myself, well, what happened to me now if my daughter got sick? Would I ever be able to dig myself out of that kind of a hole? I don't know if I could. You know, I remember my dad, after Alex passed, we went out to eat one night and we sat down and we ordered dinner. And this is maybe a couple months after Alex died, not long, but my dad, like, imagine me, but I was going to say old. Imagine me younger than I am now. Because my dad would have been, God, in 87, he would have been 36, 35, so younger than I am now. Just sat at the table and just fucking lost it. I've never seen him like that before. Just, you know, gone from like your stoic father to a quivering pile of sadness inside of a minute. Just lost it. Just like someone turned on a faucet.
You were riding a fine line of making me start to tear up here again.
Yeah. And so, like, you know,
I
if
know
any of you guys
exactly
have
what you're talking
kids,
about.
Yeah, if any of you guys have kids, like, I didn't get it at the time. I was just like, Dad's sad. And like now realizing that it's like, when you're a parent, like, if you're even halfway decent as a parent, your whole life is like making sure your kids are okay.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine the kind of like emotional, just crushing sadness and depression that has to follow that. But like, to answer the unspoken question here, there's I don't know where he got it from, but one of my favorite authors is a gentleman named Terry Pratchett, the late Sir Terry Pratchett, who wrote the Discworld novels. And there's a book he wrote about it's called the Clacks, right? It's but the technology is basically, it's just like Morse code, semaphores, right? And it's about the introduction of a fictional communication technology into a fictional pseudo magical middle-aged kind of society, and how it disrupts it. And it's actually the book it's fantastic, but it's what is it? Raising. It's the one about the postmaster. I can't remember it now.
Come on, Andy. Andy knows trivia.
The movie, the Kevin Costner movie?
No. It's they did make a movie. It was on Sky or BBC. Let's see.
Yeah, we've got these trusty computers.
What's a computer?
Going Postal. So the book's called Going Postal.
Okay.
And there's a line in it. It's almost a throwaway, but the line is, a man is not dead while his name is still spoken. And that
clearly resonated.
That got me so hard. And I thought to myself, I was thinking about making, doing this pedal company, and I didn't want it to be disaster area pedals. I just, I thought the disaster area thing, it is the right thing for what it is. Like, this is it's enclosed, it's a concept, it works. Mm-hmm. I need a new brand for the pedals because they're separate, they're different. And I was trying to think of a good name for the pedals, and that just bubbled up. And I thought, the only thing I can name my pedal company is Alexander. That's the only thing I could possibly name.
It's cool
my pedal
because
company.
the name really lends. It just sounds like a really cool company name anyway. It sounds like it is.
I selfishly have a few more points I do want to get through before we get to the actual pedal thing, because when we had last talked, at least face to face, you were talking about how, first of all, part of the proceeds of the pedals just go to a charity or some form of charity, and you told me that you were at first kind of doing a St. Jude thing. And then my question for you is to talk about, because I thought it was phenomenal. You told me that you decided to go to Camp Carefree. Camp Carefree. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So
Can you explain what that is? Because I was blown away by that.
Absolutely. So when we first started, I decided that I wanted a portion of every pedal's proceeds to go to a charity. And St. Jude is not a bad charity. If you're talking about kids with cancer, they're the big one. I'm not. After we'd done it for a while and we'd raised tens of thousands of dollars for them, I was talking to someone and they said, you should look at their books and see how much money they spend on non-kids with cancer things. And I thought, okay, I don't know if I really want to go down that rabbit hole because I don't maybe I don't want to know, but they spend more in fundraising than a lot of smaller charities earn in a year. And I mean, they're the biggest because they are the biggest. They're real easy. St. Jude's here have some money, and I'm not knocking what they do. I think their mission is great. But I also
St.
think
Jude's here in town.
Yeah,
Trust me. Yeah,
that is the St. Jude's. Yeah, that's the biggest one. Yeah. So
okay,
maybe Minneapolis. It doesn't matter.
Right.
It's Danny Thomas had the right idea. It's St. Jude's is great, but they don't need my help. They make more off of any corporate donor than me. And so I decided that I wanted to use the money that we raise for someone who needs it more than St. Jude's. So the story is in 1986, I guess, 86, a camp opened up in a town called Stokesdale, which is west of Burlington, maybe an hour and change. And the camp was this kind of like, there's like a building and they have horses and a pool and a pond for canoeing. And it's like normal summer camp stuff. But the twist was that these guys had, they were having camp sessions for kids with cancer. So kids with cancer could go to the camp and feel normal, feel like regular kids, like do whatever was medically allowed, whatever was medically permitted. And they had first aid people and some doctors as counselors, and they were doing it right. And then they also had a week for siblings. So it was like 3 weeks of cancer kids and 1 week of siblings. And the year that we were both supposed to go, Alex was too sick to attend. Well, my parents said, Matthew, you should go. So I went, and I went the first year that the camp was open. And it's a sleepaway camp. It's a week long. Like you drop off on Sunday and pick up on Saturday or whatever it is. And a week at camp, like singing campfire songs and riding horses and, shooting bow and arrows and fishing with cane poles and paddling canoes. Normal summer camp kid stuff. And it was really nice because it wasn't about Alex. It was about me. I got to be a normal kid again too, because that's, and I'm not, I hope I'm not coming across as selfish here, but the siblings of cancer patients, the cancer patients have it way worse. They really do, but it's hard on everybody. And so if there's a way for anybody to feel better, especially if it's not at the expense of someone else, I think it's great.
Yeah, you take out of your situation, you're planted somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Experience
and even if it's only
of
for
normalcy,
there's a lot to be said for that. And they were actually kind enough to let me come back in '88 after Alex had passed and let me attend the sibling camp again. They didn't have to, but they let me. And so I talked to the folks at Camp Carefree and I said, hey, this is what we're doing. Can we donate to you? And they said, sure. And so as of summer of 2019, they're our new donation partner. Now, this year has been very weird for everyone in the whole world. There's no place this pandemic hasn't touched in some way, for the worse. Mass shootings are down, but that's about the only silver lining on this.
And drunk drivers probably too when you're quarantined in your house.
Yeah. I mean, they still fall down, but they don't kill anyone while they're at it. So I think that's probably good.
So true.
And so we donated what we would have given to St. Jude to these guys, and we make up 20-some% of their annual operating income.
Wow,
it's awesome to just be able to walk in there. And it sounds really mean to say it this way, but to be the big gun to walk in and say, "Take this money."
The Elks,
this is what we do.
The Elks Rotary Club are actually way bigger than we are, but
only for a short amount of time.
That's still badass.
It's super badass. It's super cool. Badass to just be like,
I'm gonna smoke a joint to that. Oh my god!
So really quickly before we'll transition now to the pedals and Matthew, man, I love hanging out with you in person and I guess digitally too, I suppose, but better in person. But the humanity that you've chosen, the lane that you decided to drive in is so honorable. And I know maybe it's not much for you. It's just the thing that you're just destined to do, but it's so honorable. It's human. And it's what stories like this. And I've wanted to have you on the show for a long time. And I'm glad that this has worked out. But what I wanted to say before we jump into the pedals is, even if there's a part of his website that says we will honor any used gear that you buy, but if you'd like to make a donation, it basically takes you to Alexander Pedal, and I'm going to put up on the screen really quick, AlexanderPedals.com. You can go and you can actually make a donation through the website without buying something new if you bought something, or if you're not even a guitar player for that matter. And trust me, in this specific situation, you can trust Matthew that he's funneling this properly and he's vetted.
Actually,
proper.
Not to cut you off here, which I just did. If you are on the website, if you're on the About page that has the story and the details about warranty things and the passage that you just read from, if you click on that link, it has nothing to do with us. It takes you directly to Camp Carefree. And
does it? I'm sorry.
You donate to them. We don't touch the money. It all goes to them. So you can feel absolutely confident that we'll funnel it the right way because we just dump the whole thing right in their account. Yeah, we don't touch it at all. It's 100% them. One of the other things we do is we're a little different than a lot of other pedal makers in that we do our own enclosures in house. So, we're more like a big company in that respect. So Earthquaker can do their own enclosures. JHS can do their own enclosures because they do enough of them to make it worthwhile. But most other pedal companies, they farm it out because the equipment to do it is pretty expensive. The printer is $30,000. The CNC is $20,000. You have to have people who know how to, who know how to powder coat. It's a non-trivial set of skills to have and a non-trivial investment. But we do it ourselves because I wanted to have control. I like vertical integration. That's really important to me. And the side benefit of that is if I get up one morning and I have a wild hair and I'm like, I want a blue pedal, I can text my powder coat guy right after I get out of the shower, like, I had a great idea. And I can, by the time I get to work, he's got the oven fired up. He's powder coating something blue.
That's awesome.
It is. Awesome. It's really, yeah. And then, I can go in on a Saturday. Literally, I myself can go in on a Saturday. Yeah, exactly.
And by the way, the graphics on your pedals, as a designer, are amazing. I love each.
I hear a lot of the opposite comments about that, but we'll talk about that. But what I was saying is that if I decide I want to do something cool and different, I don't have to do a minimum number. I don't have to do call somebody and beg to get on their schedule. I just do it. So for Pride Month, we always do something fun and cool because I fucking love rainbows. And
Me too.
if there's a chance for me to get a rainbow
That's my
pedal
life,
on
baby.
someone's pedal board, I'll do it. So this year, especially this year, has been really hard on a whole lot of people. We did a marshmallow that had all the marshmallows were different rainbow colors. So we had all the colors of the rainbow flag, and we printed like around the sides of the pedal, which is like stupidly expensive to do. It's like printing the pedal 4 times, right? So the pedal's literally printed on 5 sides of the box. It's printed everywhere, and we did a special
awesome
glitter powder coat, and I dialed the opacity of the ink down so the glitter would shine through the ink, so all the marshmallows are sparkly. It's incredible, and we sold a bunch of them, and we gave the money that we normally would have given to Camp Carefree to a charity called the Trevor Project, which is
I know the Trevor Project, absolutely
right, and they do amazing work.
It's an overseas base. You can if you have problems or you're having internal issues, if you are LGBTQ, there is a hotline that you can contact and talk to people, especially if you're in an area that you don't have like-minded people.
Right. If you're in a place where, you don't have access to these resources, sometimes picking up the phone is your closest path to someone who can listen to you and help you.
Oh, that's so awesome. I didn't know that. The Trevor Project is one of my favorite. And if Andy would remember when we first started this podcast, that was the only place I reached out to try to get like one of their advertisements. Never wanted money. Just I wanted to spread that, not to take away from that, but that is awesome.
Yeah,
and so like every week I get somebody like, "Hey, are you doing the rainbow ones again?" I'm like,
I'm trying to look for a picture of one of them. I can't find a picture anywhere, but I mean, there's.
Do you have a white version of it with the sparkles in your office?
Yeah. No, I wish. I'm gonna dig one up. Andy, can you private chat me your information? I can send this to you real quick.
So now that we're diving into the pedals, I have the space race, and I will tell you what, with this one specifically, well, all of Alexander's pedals, this is not a one-trick pony, and Green wants to actually ask you a couple questions too. The wavelength and the space race, I'm not even getting the camera, I'm sorry, but the graphics are phenomenal.
I love them.
There are so many options for nerds. Now, if you're not a nerd,
man. Spot on.
If you're not a nerd,
motherfucker.
But there are in history lesson version 3 just came out recently that you can find demos with Andy on the homepage.
Andy.
And what's the sanitizer one?
It's called the Riff.
All available at actually I'll put it back up on the
dude, he's got some fucking awesome
Zach, go ahead.
pedals. Fucking awesome
Green,
pedals.
go ahead.
I mean, there's been even before I knew we were gonna do this podcast, there have been a number of fucking pedals. I'm like, oh, this is fucking cool. Like the Defender one.
That one's great.
Yeah, I saw that. And I was like, "Oh my god,
that's me, man!"
Hold on a second, Matthew. Just you might not know this. Zach Green restores all like the first couple years arcade games. If you went into his house, how many arcade games do you have in your house?
Well, I have over probably 35 arcade games throughout the house.
All original.
I haven't been able to incorporate video games in the bathrooms yet because we have 4 bathrooms in the house.
Right.
But every other fucking room in the house, there's
I think
video games or pinball machines.
I think your best bet for the bathrooms is emulation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because
you're right. You're right. Yeah, because there's that fucking hardcore fucking circuit board and shit.
Or
just heat.
Hear me out here. A cocktail machine.
Oh yeah,
right in front of the shitter.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I was just talking to my wife. I'm like, we have all this
Subway.
space here. I'm like, we need a vanity.
I can't be the only one that gets hungry in there.
Yeah.
Like, we need a vanity. We went to fucking what is that? The fucking what is that? The place you go to buy your fucking cheap fucking household items. IKEA. We went to IKEA. We could not find a vanity for a bathroom. So I'm like,
okay,
dude, it looks like we're gonna be putting a cocktail machine in the fucking bathroom, motherfucker. But needless to say, needless to say, this is what I want to bring this down to, is that you have this fucking awesome business, fucking pedals for guitars that have to do with fucking chips, computer-based fucking chips. What was your first foray into fucking like that whole idea of, computer
DSP.
chips and stuff like that, like the code? Because right now, I'm restoring a classic, classic cars and stuff like that. Like when it came to restoring classic video games and pinball machines, I'm like, I don't know electronics, but then slowly I started learning the foray of classic arcade games and stuff like that. But this is stuff that was like big back in like 1978, 1979. I'm just starting to learn that language and stuff like that, and we are so far beyond that. But like with you with the pedals and stuff, it seems like how did you when you want to learn about electronics, that is a fucking language. How did you learn this language?
Great question.
Of electronics.
Hang on, let me see.
Because I'm still trying to grapple with this fucking computer based language.
Well, okay, so my bookshelves are behind me here. It must be at the shop. I started with amps, with tube amps, because when I started playing, I had this little shitty like RMS 15-watt amp with an 8-inch speaker and chorus, and it was horrible. And I mean, I thought it was great because it's loud,
Unsavory.
Yeah, it was horrible. Like a fucking gorilla would have been better. It was not. It was not.
I had a gorilla and I fucking loved it.
The gorillas are pretty good, dude.
Back in the day,
they get a bad rap, but I got given a Fender Bassman 100, which is it's basically a twin with no reverb and no tremolo, basically. And it's a 100-watt twin head, no reverb, no tremolo. And so I got given that. And my dad went to school in the 70s. He got his engineering degree in the early 70s, so he knew all about tubes. He put himself through school fixing televisions. He knew all that stuff. He went to school right at the time when they were teaching tubes still and transistors, and they were just getting into integrated circuits.
Wow.
Like my
grandpa. Yeah, exactly. Just at the very end of that. And
the cusp.
Yeah, and so he was a double E, and there were always electronic things in the house. And he had when we moved to North Carolina, he was basically the head of engineering for a company that it was a place that was a duplicating plant for cassette tapes. This is in the 80s. This is huge. So they were taking these machines called loaders, and the loader, I'm not going to go into the whole thing of it, but Google cassette duplication. So you've got a loop bin, and you've got slaves, and then you've got your pancake. You put the pancake on the loader spools it into the shells, does the splice.
I'm going to come back and listen to this when I'm tripping on a hallucinogen at some point, and I'm just going to get to the pancake goes into the loader.
Oh my God! It's funny that you say that, Andy, because this is just making sense to me right now from him.
I'm glad that we can have
just now.
Go on.
No idea if I'm completely fluent.
But he was hot rodding these loaders because the loader at that point, the loader was the weak link, the slow point. It's like, oh, we're making cassettes, but the splices keep failing and they're blah blah blah. So he came up with he's like, oh, this doesn't work because of this, so let's fix this. So he was working at this company solving their problems, and that's what he was great at. That's absolutely the thing my dad was best at, was solving problems. Turns out not his own problems, but other people's problems he was great at. And so he worked his way up through the ranks and was in a position of great responsibility. And so, I always viewed my dad's success as being due to his engineering and the electronic side of things. And so that's
Problem
always
solving.
it's always been what I've wanted to do.
So for me, when I see your pedals, you've solved the problem, and this might dovetail what Zach is saying, but you've solved the problem of getting the most out of a pedal in a small footprint. Is that kind of what?
That's all. It's 100% laziness.
Well, they've been doing that since the beginning of Apple and Atari.
For sure. I'm a huge devotee of Steve Wozniak. I love his approach.
Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs.
Not Jobs.
Back in the Atari days.
Jobs is not a tech guy. Jobs is a people guy.
Exactly. But Wozniak was the fucking technical guy.
Absolutely the tech guy. Yeah. So I mean, read up on the Apple II disk controller card. Read up on that sometime. It's amazing. He solves all these engineering problems with nothing. Like he came up with this solution. He's like, oh, if I do it this way, I can save a chip. If I do it this other way, I can save another chip. And the whole disk controller card is like 6 ICs. It's
exactly.
It's insane. But so the disaster area stuff is the solving of the problems. That's like, oh, I need to turn on these two pedals at the same time. Well, here's a MIDI controller. The Alexander stuff, it started off as almost the antithesis to that. It's like, hey, here's a pedal with 4 knobs and a toggle switch, and you just turn the knobs and it sounds good. That's like, let me get away from the MIDI stuff. Well, I didn't get very far away from it because within 2 years we had launched the Syntax Era, which was still 4 knobs and a button, but it has 4 sound modes, and everything's MIDI controllable. And I ended up, after 2 years, probably where I should have started. I probably should have started with all the MIDI controllable stuff, but it worked out okay in the end. And so now all of our products have MIDI. And the MIDI thing, for me, it's about laziness. I don't like to have to re-dial in my pedals when I get my board out of the bag at the gig. I want my shit to be right when I get there. And there's a lot of people who are like, oh, well, you can put washers under the knobs and lock them down and tape them and no, man. No.
Oh, that's a lot of fucking work.
That's a lot of fucking work. And
nothing ever sets right after you do that.
Never. And so with our stuff, you save a preset, and when you get to wherever you're going, it loads the last preset that you accessed, whatever that was.
Because that's logic.
Exactly. Like it shouldn't be where the knobs are. It should be where the knobs should be. We're trying to make it so that it's right. Like
that is artwork, by the way, and that marshmallow pedal is amazing.
Exactly. Thank you.
My God,
it's really tough to tell. On the angled picture, you can see it in the middle, the field at the bottom with the red marshmallow. You can see the sparkle kind of shining through it. The straight-on picture is maybe more indicative, but all the marshmallows, the whole box sparkles like that. You take it out into the sunlight and turn it around, and it is, wow.
That's pretty cool. Just the fact that it's done. I wouldn't ever want to put it on a board that left the house. If I ever get to
the graphics, the graphics and the powder are incredibly durable. You can go at that thing with your car keys, and it'll still look good.
It's fucking old. It's like almost like old school silk screening.
All right, hold on a second. So because I'm going to put the image up. It's going to kind of be in the center of the screen because the image that you sent over is not the full wide. But just for the people that are watching the video show, this is what this does, or what this looks like, I should say, not what it does.
This is weird to have the picture not reversed. It's very weird. It's very weird.
I mean what I like about that is that is a cereal box fucking cover in my youth.
Yep,
dude.
And that's what I fucking love about it.
That's a level from Super Mario 3.
Do any of you guys shop at Aldi?
Yeah, regularly.
Right? Fucking marshmallows and stars, man. with the wizard on the box.
Yeah, yeah.
It's that shit right there.
Yeah.
I told my graphic designer, I'm like, this needs to look like Marshmallows and Stars with the fucking wizard on the cover.
Yep.
He's like, I know what you mean. I got this. So
probably looking forward to doing that. Like, oh my God.
He sent it over to me, and I was like, I've never been this happy with the way a pedal looked in my entire life. So you guys opinions are divided, but they're generally 50-50. I love your pedals, or I think your pedals look stupid. Like anytime there's like a video that comes up, there's always somebody who posts on the YouTube comments like, oh, there's another Alexander pedal that looks stupid and I won't buy it. Which is cool, man. You weren't going to buy it anyway.
That guy's probably really old and only plays a Telecaster.
There's people that actually say that?
Yeah, they go out of their way to leave comments on YouTube videos to say, I don't like the way this looks. That's cool, man. It's not
listen who you're talking to.
Well, I mean, like,
Trust me.
If you look at a Marshmallow, if you look at the Marshmallow pedal, it looks exactly like it sounds. It looks exactly like it sounds.
If I want to buy Marshmallows, that's what I want the package to look like.
Yeah, if you don't like the way it looks, you won't like the way it sounds. So I feel like that's really good.
I feel like there's an entire leg of marketing.
No surprises. No surprises.
I love your pedals. Some of my dealers that listen to this, like B's Music, even though I didn't turn him on to your pedals, but the George Brothers and a few others, the
George Brothers are real solid for us. They do great.
Yeah, amazing.
Dude, I gotta fucking buy your Defender pedals just for my fucking arcade.
It is.
And outside of that, it's something I would fucking use.
I just want the Marshmallow T-shirt.
I have one.
Love that fucking
Let me know what size you are. I'll see if we have any. If you're a large or an XL, we probably got you.
How about you tell me how much that usually costs, and I'll go make
small.
a...
Andy's more like a small. If you have a onesie, maybe.
Does it have buttons on the bottom?
Here we go. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen.
Right.
It's really hard to change the diapers without the buttons on the bottom. You'll never get the kid to sit still long enough.
I would, and then you late at night, you're trying to change the diaper, and then the buttons don't snap right, and you're sitting there swearing. You're looking at it,
and then all of a sudden, and then the feeling's gone.
Fuck.
Let's
Zach had a little throwaway line there just a second ago. That was horrifying. Yeah.
So let's talk about. Let's wrap this up with good feelings, and I kind of want to do a little bit of a recap, and then I have one last question for Matthew. First of all and foremost, anybody that's listening to us tonight that's made it to the end, we hardly ever talk about guitars or guitar gear.
It's true.
So we rarely do. And on occasion, we've had Reeves on the show, and we've had some, Boris from Gorgo Badello and a few other industry friends of ours or whatever. But we usually really don't dive into gear. So this is like a really cool change of pace. But for those that aren't guitar players and are here for us talking about boobs and vaginas, and
we haven't
else.
talked about poop once, Zach Green.
Yeah,
it's fucking meaningful, man. It's a fucking real deal, man.
Yeah,
I was trying.
Yeah.
However, I just want to say once again, Matthew, I always love hanging out with you and seeing you. I can't wait to do it again, of course. Your whole philosophy and everything is inspiring. A lot of my dealers that I deal with absolutely love you.
It's what fucking changes the world.
And to have, and Green, actually Andy and Zach will say, your humanistic approach to this whole thing is amazing. You've grown a business where you're actually providing a job for people to make a paycheck, just like many other of us small companies that it just goes without being said. It's really difficult to do. It's very difficult to go in and do payroll and do taxes, and it's so easy to give up, but you continue to do it. And then on top of that, you give a portion of your proceeds to charity. And the last thing I read somewhere was that food banks in your city or something along those lines.
So we actually the Riff sanitizer that was like when the pandemic started. We North Carolina, Wake County first, and then North Carolina statewide did a shelter-in-place order like most states. We have our governor is a Democrat, and so he's more apt to err on the side of caution because you know he wants our people to live.
Yeah, be safe, you know.
Yeah, and unfortunately, those kinds of orders hurt a lot of businesses, especially ones that employ musicians, restaurants, obviously, any performing arts, anything. They're, you know, the clubs and bars that a lot of musicians rely on for their sources of income. Touring bands, God, I can't imagine how rough it is to be a touring musician right now. It's like, I hope you're getting your ASCAP and BMI checks.
AKA t-shirt salesman.
Yeah, right, exactly. And well, not if you have a 360 deal. Don't get me started on that bullshit. But there's a whole lot of industries that are like seriously fucked until this gets better. When it started, you guys remember the initial like the pandemic panic buying of things like toilet paper, Lysol, Purell, right? So the Riff
marshmallows.
No. I mean, no one panic bought those. I already had them all. So,
hey, by the way, they were gone off the shelf.
Me
by
too.
the way, but go ahead.
So I did the Riff pedal, and it just like the idea was just like, bring, we should do this. And I did what I always do is I find some successful piece of industrial graphic design and I copy it shamelessly. But I took the Purell, the Gojo people that own Purell actually have an incredibly detailed website detailing how you use their logos, the Pantone colors, the whole thing. Like if you want to use Purell logos in your advertising, whatever, like here's how you do it. I was like, oh, I'm stealing all this. So the logo font is a completely hand-drawn, modified. There's no font that does that. So like there's 2 hours of me in Illustrator with the fucking pen tool, like turning L's into F's and turning P's into R's and like, yeah, that was me. But
I absolutely love doing that stuff. I sincerely, that is one of my favorite things to sit in front of Illustrator and Photoshop and do is just, I want to rip something off. I want to be inspired by something. If I want to make something creative out of nowhere, I'll turn to like playing music.
Right. Well, I never thought that a big part of my job would be graphic design. Never thought. It's like if you look at the early disaster area stuff, I had help with all of it. Like I used to send my JPEGs off to somebody to crop and matte and do drop shadows for product photos. And he got too busy to do it. And he was like, here's how you do it. Just, take the background out, use the lasso tool and, make a copy and use the Gaussian blur and then just erase around here. And it's like, he was like, here's how you do it.
Hey, wait, you're giving away too many secrets.
Yeah.
You
get
a magic lasso.
You know what? But that's what we need. That's what we need.
I use the polygonal lasso actually because
it's easy. Actually, start off with the regular lasso and then you can alt key it and change it into
magnetic
polygon lasso while you're doing it.
Actually, now if you're on CS, the current CS or CC, there's a remove background, and it actually does in Photoshop. It actually does a mask for you, and it gets the mask pretty close, and then you can go in and just edit the mask.
Yeah,
and then merge layers, and you're done. It's actually way faster.
Does it output to path?
No, it's right next to the.
You can if you want, but it does it when you go in and edit the mask. You still have the lasso and the brush tools, and so you can go into the polygonal lasso and just lasso around the things that you want to not be cropped, and they'll be subtracted from the mask and taken out. It's actually
and for anybody that's following at home, it's right next to the remove acne button.
We can and on top of that, we can all do this. We can all do this.
Let's our show's usually only an hour, so I have no problem.
Well,
we have no problem going over.
It's been fucking awesome, dude. Awesome.
But I actually I want to Dr. Phil this for 1 second. I'm so glad because I did kind of do a little bit of a deep dive into not podcasts, but just interviews and stuff like that. And I'm glad we got to touch on all the human stuff with your brother. But there's one piece I feel like that's always been missing. And if people go to your website and they read the about and they kind of fish around a little bit, there's one thing I think needs a little bit of explanation if you're okay with this. And it's this photograph here. Can you, first of all, you're going to have to read it because we have only audio viewers that make up most of our stuff anyway. And then give us a background of this, please.
Wow.
So yeah, so for the audio listeners, this is it's a piece of paper that I scanned, and it's written on a typewriter. This actually would have been an IBM Selectric 2. It was in my mom's office. And this is something my brother typed on the typewriter. And it says, "School is fun. Once upon a time, there was a boy named Alex. That was on Monday. On Tuesday, he did even better. On Wednesday, he did and then Alex wrote in by hand well. On Thursday, he did his best. On Friday, he did too good. And so that's the story of Alex by Alexander James Farrow." And so this is just my brother in mom's office after school. He typed this, and it's one of the little, like, when someone passes, you end up with a lot of their random stuff, right? Like when my dad passed, he had a whole house full of shit. Just like you accumulate things. And for a 60-year-old man, he had a lot of shit in his house, like a whole garage full of tools, beds and couches and dining room tables and just all kinds of shit, right? That I had to get rid of or find a place for or keep. When you're 7, you don't have a lot of shit. You haven't left a big mark on the world when you're 7. And so this is one of the few little pieces I have from Alex. One of the very few. There's a few things. I have a video. It's like an interview with Alex and my mom and me when he would have been probably 6 at the time. And I can't watch it. I don't think I'm strong enough to actually see him again. I don't think I could take it. I mean, I can't put the decorations on the Christmas tree. I can't do it. Ask my wife. I'm incapable of decorating a Christmas tree. I can put the lights on, but I have to go sit down after that. I'm done.
You are going to see him again.
I probably haven't lived a good enough life to make it to where he is.
You'll see us again.
Let me put it this way. You're gonna fucking rub elbows with him again.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what.
I might see him while I'm going down and he's going up. We'll see what happens.
Gonna fucking rub elbows with him.
I'm pretty sure I'll see my dad again because we're probably going the same fucking place. Yeah,
Matthew, trust me.
That's what it all comes down to, baby.
Yeah.
Well, let's not go down that road because Green, I will ream a new one on that one.
Oh, he's gonna kick my ass now.
But I will tell you this. Well, I'm the atheist, so just leave me alone.
No, I know. That's what about you.
Let's just first of all, if you are on YouTube, you're going to see that there's obviously in loving memory of Alex. But the last thing that I think that we can take, if you've made it this far, you might as well hear the golden, underlining, is take what Alex has said. He did good, and then he did better, and then he did better again. And do you know what I mean? If we could just, as human beings, just do that, the world would be such a better place. Inspirational word. And I'm so glad. And I was moved the first time I saw that on your website, the moment that I met you and I visited. And I remember, and that's my whole hope and my happiness today is that I put that made that graphic. I was talking to my wife earlier, and like Matthew needs to explain this for a second, because he put this on here for a reason. But it seems like it's like one of these undertow, or what you say is like this mist thing that kind of happens in a conversation. May we all be like Alex and be in a positive light and beacon.
I think we could all do a lot worse.
Exactly. With that, folks, that is the show. And
Matthew, thank you so much. It's been fucking awesome.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
Folks, tune in next week. I don't remember, and I apologize, it's not next week, but I'm a little flustered at the moment of joy and also love. So, Matthew, hang on for 2 seconds, and folks, we will see you next week.